Happy Friday, guys. Today we're going to be learning about unit rates. A unit rate is a ratio or a fraction, and it's going to compare two quantities. Each of the quantities is measured in a different unit. The second unit, or the bottom part of the fraction, which we call the denominator, is always going to be a 1 when you're doing unit rates. Here's an example. Jake can hike 3 miles per hour. When you see per and then a unit, this is always meaning 1. So I could put a 1 in front of it, and then I'm going to write it as a ratio or a fraction. So I always want my 1 to be on the bottom. 3 miles would be my first thing I'm comparing, and I'm comparing it with 1 hour. And that's basically what a unit rate looks like. Your final answer needs to have 1 in front of the units when you finish and find your final answer. So today we're going to look at a few homework questions. You may not have time to watch the entire video in class today, but you guys are so lucky you have your iPads now. So if you don't watch the entire video in class, you can watch it at home on your own by going to the SMS webpage, clicking on My Teacher page, and then Homework Videos is where you can find this. The 4 problems we're going to do today together are number 1, number 2, number 6, and number 8. If you don't already have your homework sheet for today, press pause on the video and pass out the sheets so that we can do these together and you can write in the answers. Now that everybody has a sheet, let's look at number 1 and try it. As you read the question, it says, to make 2 batches of nut bars, Jada needs to use 4 eggs. How many eggs are used in each batch of nut bars? The first thing we want to try to do is look at what is the question asking us for. What are the units? We are looking for eggs used in each batch. And each batch represents 1. Now I know what part goes on the bottom of my ratio for my unit rate. I need only 1 batch. I don't know how many eggs it's going to take. To find this, we're going to look at the other part of the question and see what it tells us about the batches of nut bars and the eggs used. When you look back in the first part of the problem, it says 2 batches, 4 eggs. Now to make sure we get this set up correctly, whatever your unit is on the top needs to be the same on the top in your next fraction. Whatever unit is on the bottom is also going to be on the bottom. So I know on top, I'm going to put the amount of eggs. When you look up in your story problem, it says 4 eggs. And on the bottom, it's going to say batches or batch. When you look back at the top, you are going to notice it says 2 batches. So I'm going to put a 2 on this side. Some of you may notice what's happening in this because these numbers are fairly easy to work with. If you get numbers that are difficult, basically what we want to do is look at this part of the ratio where we have both numbers. Earlier we said this little line in the middle really doesn't mean a fraction, it means divide. I'm going to put the top number in the box, and then I'm going to divide. 4 divided by 2 is 2. it's going to be a perfect match. I get 0 remainder. Now what I'm going to do is take my answer, and it's going to go into my unit rate or my ratio. So now I know that it takes 2 eggs to make 1 batch. So your final answer on your line would be 2 eggs. All you have to do is set up your ratio and then divide. Top in the box. Let's set up question 2 together, and then you on your own later can solve it. Question number 2 says, on her way to visit her parents, Jennifer drives 265 miles in 5 hours. What is her average rate of speed in miles per hour? The first thing we want to do is look, what is the question asking for? This question is asking for miles per hour. Anytime it says per, that means 1. I am looking for 1 hour. Now I know how to set up my ratio. I am going to put, I don't know how many miles on top. And the unit that's supposed to be a 1 is hours. I'm going to put an equal sign, and then when I read the rest of my problem, it's going to give me my information. Before I even go and look at the rest of my problem, I'm going to check out my units. The top part is miles, so I need to put miles on the top. When you look back at your ratio, hours is on bottom, so you need to copy that unit on the bottom of your second one. Now when we go back and read our question, we're going to find the numbers that match miles and the number that matches hours. Jennifer drives 265 miles. So I'm going to put 265 by the miles. And 5 hours. So I'm going to put 5 on the bottom next to hours. Again, we're going to look at this question. This fraction bar does not mean just a fraction. What else does it mean? If you said divide, I am so proud of you. Give yourself 2 claps. All right, top number goes in the box. Bottom number goes outside the box. And all you're left with is dividing to find how many miles she drove per hour. I'm not going to do that one for you because I think you can divide by 5. The rest of the problems 3, 4, and 5 are very similar to 1 and 2. Ask yourselves the same question. Look at the end of the problem and see what is it asking for, and then set up your beginning ratio. I'm going to skip those and move down to a trickier question that has a fraction in it. Let's go to number 6. An above-ground swimming pool is leaking. After half an hour, the pool has leaked 7/8 of a gallon of water. How many gallons of water per hour is the swimming pool leaking? The first thing we want to ask ourselves is, what is this question asking me to find? It is asking me to find gallons of water per hour. Right after the word per is where I want to put the 1. Now I know what unit goes on the bottom. 1 hour goes on the bottom. When I set this up, I'm putting 1 hour on the bottom. And then I do not know how many gallons. So I'm going to put question mark gallons. I'm going to set this equal. The next fraction, we already know what units go on top. It's gallons. We already know what unit goes on bottom. It's an hour or hours. Now I'm going to go back and read my question and put the two numbers beside these units. An above-ground swimming pool is leaking half an hour. Now I know what number goes beside hour. The pool has leaked 7/8 of a gallon. Now I know what number goes beside a gallon. 7/8. We just got finished doing these types of questions. Some of you were also really good at this. This little fraction bar does not only mean a fraction, it also means divide. So really what I need to do is 7/8 divided by 1/2. When we talked about this originally, we said it was much easier to write this question going sideways. So that's what I'm going to do. 7/8 divided by 1/2. Does anybody remember how we divide fractions? Really, we don't want to divide, right? We want to multiply because it's easier. So I'm going to write the question 7/8. I'm going to do the opposite of divide, which is multiply. And then we had to flip that second fraction upside down and make it be the opposite of what it is now. 2 goes on top and 1 goes on bottom. How do you multiply fractions? Oh my gosh, I think I heard someone say go straight across. Ooh, 2 claps for you. 7 times 2, 8 times 1. You should get 14/8. 14/8 is an improper fraction, but it can also be reduced. So I can turn it into 7/4. And then you might also turn it into a mixed number. 4 can go into 7 one whole time with 3 leftovers, and then the denominator stays the same. And this was how many gallons the pool was leaking in 1 hour. So your final answer is either going to be 14/8, 7/4, or 1 3/4 gallons per hour is how much the pool was leaking. See, that wasn't so bad, was it? Question number 8 is the same type of problem. The only difference is it actually asks you for 2 answers. There's food A and food B. So you might want to half your paper and put food A on this side and food B on this side. When we solve this question, we are going to look at what is it really asking us. Find each unit rate. Which food has fewer calories per serving? So that's what I'm looking for, calories per serving. Anytime you see the per, that means 1. Now I know what goes on bottom. Servings should go on bottom. I'm going to write, I don't know, how many calories on top and 1 serving on the bottom. I'm going to make it equal to whatever it said in the story problem. And remember, first, we're only looking at food A. So let's go back and read just that sentence. Food A contains 150 calories. Oops, now I know how many calories. 150. In 3/4 of a serving. There's my serving size. 3/4. 3/4 serving. If you want to make this fraction bar a little bit bigger so that it looks more like a divide, you sure can. Food B is going to be the exact same way. I already know calories goes on top, so I'm going to read that sentence and see what number matches calories.